Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Captain CA here on a rainy day. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about tarpon fishing. It's that time of year. It's mid-May. Full swing. The entire west coast of Florida is just on fire. Lots of tarpon around. So how are you going to catch them? Well, I'm going to give you a rod and reel setup that I got a lot of confidence in, especially for those of you that want to fish them shallow. So let's go take a look at them. So, shallow tarpon fishing. What quantifies shallow? Well, in the zone that I fish in, I'm typically fishing on a beach or on a flat somewhere, and I'm dealing with water depths that might be as shallow as 4 or 5 feet, maybe as deep as 12 to 15 foot. So that's shallow. So the requirements that you would need for fighting tarpon in a zone like that where they cannot sound is much different than if you're fishing them in an inlet or a pass where there's deep water. If you're fishing them on wrecks offshore or reefs, you're fishing them around bridges where there's, well, anything can happen. So I prefer the shallow game, but that requires a certain rod and reel setup, line balance, everything to make sure you get a bite. Now, this setup here is mostly for those that want to get indoctrinated into tarpon fishing and want to throw live bait. So let's go over the rod first. This is a Fitzgerald Stunner HD, and here is your model number and specs on the rod. Okay. When I first signed on at Fitzgerald as a pro staffer for them, I expected to have light tackle inshore rods. I expected to have some bass stuff. I did not expect to have offshore and what I would call inshore heavier tackle. Well, they surprised me. They have built some fantastic rods for tarpon fishing, snook fishing, cobia fishing, inshore grouper fishing, snapper fishing. I mean, so I want for nothing there. It is a full service line of products there at Fitzgerald. I love this setup, this particular rod. It's 8 feet long. It's an extra heavy action. Throws everything from 3/4 of an ounce all the way up to 3 ounces. So it's perfect for throwing larger mullet, ladyfish, big palm size or hand size pinfish under floats, and still got a light enough tip to be able to manage throwing crabs. So for me, it's the perfect setup. Now I mated it up with a 10,000. This is a Shimano. This is the Gosa. It's a reel that you've seen me use before. I can pack the line on here. I mean, really pack it. It's a good reel for tarpon fishing. 10,000 size is ideal, especially if you're live bait fishing. You don't know what you're going to tangle with, and you could get a monster fish even in that shallow water. Now, I put this setup together to catch fish that typically weigh between 75 and about 110 to 120 pounds. And I think it does a really good job with that class of fish where you can land them quickly. Now here I have packed on diamond braid. This is 40-pound diamond braid. It's an 8-carrier braid, super soft, super smooth. And I know I'm going to get asked, why the white? Here's why. From the poling platform, I can see the white against the darker water, against the surface of the water. I know where the bait is. I know how far he has cast, how far the angler has cast now. When you have green line or a dark line, it's very hard to know where the lure is. It's just hard unless you've got a float on it. You just don't know. So much better for me that way. Then you got to think, the fish is looking up. We've got kind of an overcast gray day today, and even on a day where the sun is out. Very hard to see that white line floating up there on the surface like you can see it if it were a dark color that's silhouetted. So it does a good job. Now, I have found, and this is the tricky part, I have found over the last few seasons it's being harder and harder to get bites. In fact, we get way more rejections than we get bites. This is how we're going to beat it this season. Let me show you. So, my connection, well, I'll show you the picture-in-picture right here. My connection is an FG knot. Now in the past, I like to tie, and I still do if we're fishing around bridges or any deep water scenario, I will tie the bimini to double the braid. But on the beaches, on the flats, in these shallow zones, I have found it better to tie a longer leader, and the only knot that works is this FG knot. So let me give you a close-up in my hand here. And I leave a little bit of a tag on it, but it goes through my guides very, very easy. So, open that bail. So, I've got the FG knot tied on there. You can see it. And it allows, it's super strong. It's 100%. So, I'm going from 40-pound white ice diamond braid to 40-pound diamond illusion straight fluorocarbon. It's pink. They offer some different colors now, and the pink does not allow the light to like beam through it, so it absorbs some light so you don't get that shine. So it's a little more invisible, believe it or not, than just the clear. And I run literally, I'm not kidding you, I run like 6 feet of that 40-pound fluoro, and then I tie, as you can see here, I tie a uni knot, a double uni knot, or you can tie a blood knot, either one. I just happen to tie uni because I only have 40 going to 50. Now, if I have dirtier or murkier water, I could attach a piece of 60, but I have found in recent years if I go any higher than 60, I just don't get the bites. I just don't. So attached to that 6 feet, I put another almost 2 foot of that 50-pound, which is even stiffer. It again is Diamond Illusion or Momoy fluorocarbon leader, and then I snell it. The hook size really depends on: am I throwing a mullet? Am I throwing a ladyfish? Am I throwing a giant threadfin, pinfish, whatever? Or am I throwing a crab? You know, if I'm throwing a crab, it's different. So in this one, it's set up to throw a big pinfish. So this is a 7/0 hook, okay? And you can see that I've snelled it, 9-turn snell with a tag on it. I want to make sure it holds up. That way, when I swing that pinfish out there, whether he's free lined or if I have, for demonstration purposes, I've put this little crab out here so you can get an idea. I may take the hook and put it through the wingtip there, just the edge of the crab, so I can throw it, keep him alive, keep him clack-a-lacking out there for me, swimming, making it work for me. I can have that crab skittering on the surface, or I can have that pinfish under a bigger float. And that pinfish, when those, if I have them set, let's just, I've got such a long leader, let's just say I have them set, I'm fishing 8 feet of water and I have them set for 3.5 feet under the surface. Tarpon are traveling just above the grass. They come up, ooh, there's a pinfish up ahead. It's starting to come into sight. They swim up there, one of them cuts out, eats it, starts to drag off. I don't set the hook when I see the cork go down. Basically, all I'm doing with this, because most of the time I like to have it as natural, I don't like to have it on a tight line, I'm letting it drift with the tide, I reel into the fish. These are a lighter wire hook. This hook happens to be an owner hook, I believe, and I reel into the fish. So I reel. I gain line as fast as I can until I can feel that tip loading up. When that tip loads up, I may make one quick stab, and then I drop that 8 feet of rod quick, and I look for him because I know he's going to be running. He's in shallow water, and he's going to launch. And I want to be able to create some slack by what we call bowing to the king. So I want to lean forward as far as I can and reach. Let him not fall on a tight line. And the way you can tell that he didn't fall on a tight line is because when he jumps, if his head is still out in front of him and he lands, that means he didn't fall on a tight line. But if he jumps straight up like that and he falls over backwards, that means he fell on a tight line, which means it could pull the hook. So you got to be careful that way. You got to anticipate. When you see that line angle, that's where that white braid comes in pretty handy. You see that white line starting to come up, you know he's getting ready to jump. He's either going to get a jump out of it if it's coming up quick, or he's just coming up to get a gulp of air and go back down. Either way, it's good to know when it's going to happen so that you can mitigate, you can take some type of action to slow that down. So that's basically my setup this year. You're going to have 7.5 to 8 feet a leader now. That's going to be the setup for this season. I'm just telling you, it's going to help you. There's a lot of people out there fishing right now, a lot of traffic. And I'm going to say this too. If you get sharks that start running down your tarpon, just break your tarpon off. There's so much poor handling of these fish now, and there's so much shark predation. We cannot afford to let sharks kill, you know, a couple of fish for every boat in the fleet every day. It can't happen. So you get sharks that are chasing your tarpon. Just be happy with the fact that you hooked them, you got a jump or two out of them, just break them off. I mean, all you got to do is palm that spool, pull straight back, and I promise you it'll break off. These things are powerful animals, but they're majestic, and we don't need to be feeding them to sharks. Also, one more soapbox thing. When you do bring your tarpon to hand, do not lift him out of the water, please. If you're going to lift, just lift his head gently out of the water when you're down alongside the boat, just for a photo with all his weight supported by the water, and get that long shot down the side of the boat. There's no need to pick them all the way up anymore. There's damn sure no reason to put them in your boat. And I'll even say this, even though it used to be cool maybe 10 years ago to stand on the beach with these things and hold them, do not do that either, because I'm telling you, they're not going to survive the shark predation if you do that. So don't do it. If you've done it in the past, that's fine. Just don't do it in the future. That's all I got for you today. Hey, if you enjoy tips like this, give us that thumbs up and smash that subscribe button. We want you to be here every week for I to give you the best tips to make you a better inshore angler. That's it. That's all I got for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed this little tip. And now I'm going to go rig about 2 more of these, so I'm ready for tarpon fishing tomorrow.